The request sounded simple, but the pain hidden behind it was impossible to ignore. The billionaire stood silently outside the hospital, staring at the wedding invitation crumpled in his hand. His fingers trembled as he looked at the woman who had unexpectedly become the only person willing to tell him the truth. He quietly asked her to pretend to be his wife for one evening, hoping it would silence the questions of relatives who believed success could erase loneliness. She looked into his exhausted eyes for several long seconds before making one condition that changed everything. She agreed, but only if he stopped pretending he was fine. In that instant, the lie he had been living for years began to fall apart. Before this unforgettable story begins, if you believe kindness, healing, and second chances can change a person's life, please like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone you love, and subscribe to channel name. Your support helps these emotional stories reach hearts all around the world. The bright Saturday morning sun reflected from the glass towers that surrounded downtown, but inside one of the city's busiest hospitals, the atmosphere felt completely different. People rushed through the hallways carrying flowers, coffee, and hope. Among them walked Ryland Mercer, a 39-year-old billionaire whose name regularly appeared on magazine covers celebrating business success. Investors admired him. Employees respected him. The public believed he had everything a man could ever want. Only Ryland knew how empty his life had become. 3 years earlier, he had lost his younger sister, the only family member who had remained beside him after their parents passed away. She had died unexpectedly while waiting for a life-saving transplant. Since that day, Ryland buried himself inside endless work. The company continued growing. His fortune doubled. His heart quietly disappeared behind carefully practiced smiles. Every interview sounded perfect. Every public appearance appeared effortless. Every photograph showed confidence. None of it was real. On that same Saturday morning, another familiar face walked through the hospital entrance. Her name was Serena Ashcroft. She worked as a pediatric music therapist, spending her days helping seriously ill children forget their pain through songs, stories, and simple acts of kindness. Unlike Ryland, Serena wasn't wealthy. She drove an old hatchback that frequently refused to start. She rented a tiny apartment overlooking a noisy intersection. She rarely bought anything for herself. Yet everyone who met her noticed something extraordinary. She carried hope wherever she went. Several months earlier, Serena and Ryland had first met by accident. Ryland had anonymously donated millions to renovate the children's wing without allowing his name to appear anywhere. While inspecting the project, he wandered into one of Serena's music sessions. Instead of recognizing him as a billionaire, she simply handed him a small drum and encouraged him to join the children. He awkwardly agreed. For 15 unexpected minutes. He laughed. Really laughed. It was the first genuine smile anyone had seen from him in years. Since then, their paths crossed often inside the hospital. Sometimes they drank coffee. Sometimes they talked while watching children paint colorful pictures. Serena never asked about business. She asked about sleep, about memories, about grief. Questions everyone else avoided. Ryland always changed the subject. One sunny afternoon, he received an invitation to his grandfather's 90th birthday celebration. The event would gather distant relatives from across the country. There was only one problem. For years, they had repeatedly pressured him to marry. After losing his sister, Ryland stopped attending family gatherings because he could no longer endure endless questions about why someone so successful always arrived alone. This year felt different. His grandfather's health had declined rapidly. Doctors quietly admitted the elderly man might not celebrate another birthday. Ryland desperately wanted to attend. He simply couldn't bear another evening pretending everything was perfect. Without thinking, he asked Serena for help. He explained the situation honestly. He asked whether she would pretend to be his wife for one evening so his grandfather could enjoy one peaceful celebration. Serena remained silent. She understood the request. She also understood the pain hiding beneath it. Then she gently offered one condition. She would help only if Ryland promised to stop pretending he was emotionally fine. Not just during the dinner. In life. The word struck him harder than expected. Nobody had challenged the mask he wore so calmly. Everyone admired it. Only Serena questioned it. After a long silence, he accepted. The following Thursday became unexpectedly emotional. Instead of shopping for expensive clothes, Serena insisted they spend the day somewhere entirely different. She brought Ryland to the community garden his late sister had once helped create before her illness. Children still played beneath the colorful flowers she had planted years earlier. Small wooden signs carried encouraging messages about hope, kindness, and resilience. Ryland hadn't visited since her funeral. Walking through those familiar paths reopened memories he had buried beneath endless work. He remembered planting roses together. He remembered promising they would grow old teasing one another. He remembered holding her hand during her final hospital visit. For the first time in years, he cried. Not quietly. Not politely. The tears arrived all at once. Serena didn't interrupt. She simply remained beside him. Sometimes healing doesn't require advice. Sometimes it simply requires someone willing to stay. As the afternoon sunshine filtered through blooming trees, Ryland admitted something he had never confessed aloud. He feared that if he stopped pretending to be strong, people would lose respect for him. Serena smiled gently. She explained that real strength wasn't hiding pain. Real strength was trusting someone enough to let them see it. That evening felt lighter than any he could remember. For the first time in years, Ryland slept peacefully. The next morning arrived bright and beautiful. The birthday celebration would begin in only a few hours. Neither of them knew that before the day ended, their simple agreement to pretend would unexpectedly become something neither had ever imagined. The warm Friday afternoon sunlight bathed the countryside in golden light as Ryland Mercer and Serena Ashcroft drove toward the family estate where generations of the Mercer family had gathered for one special celebration. Rolling green fields stretched endlessly beside the road, and gentle breezes carried the scent of fresh flowers through the open windows. Although Ryland wore the calm expression everyone expected from one of the country's most successful businessmen, Serena could still see the quiet nervousness hidden behind his eyes. When they arrived, the historic mansion was already alive with laughter. Children chased one another across the gardens while relatives greeted each other with warm embraces. Long tables decorated with white flowers stood beneath towering oak trees, creating a peaceful daytime setting that reminded everyone how precious family moments truly were. As Ryland and Serena stepped from the car together, curious eyes immediately turned toward them. Some relatives smiled with surprise. Others whispered quietly, wondering who the elegant young woman beside him might be. Ryland instinctively reached for Serena's hand, not because they needed to convince anyone, but because he suddenly realized he didn't want to face the afternoon alone. His grandfather, Edmund Mercer, sat comfortably beneath the shade of an old maple tree. Though age had weakened his body, his eyes still carried remarkable warmth. The moment he saw Ryland approaching with Serena, a genuine smile spread across his face. For years, Edmund had worried less about Ryland's success and more about his loneliness. Watching his grandson laugh softly beside someone who brought peace into his life gave the elderly man something he had quietly prayed to see. The afternoon unfolded beautifully. Serena treated every relative with sincere kindness. She listened more than she spoke. She helped children decorate cupcakes, assisted elderly guests carrying plates, and even joined a group of cousins planting flowers around the garden fountain. Nobody noticed expensive jewelry. Nobody discussed business. Instead, everyone noticed the simple joy that followed her wherever she went. Ryland found himself smiling naturally instead of forcing polite expressions. For the first time since losing his sister, he wasn't performing happiness. He was beginning to feel it. As the celebration continued, Edmund asked Ryland to walk with him through the garden. Moving slowly with his cane, the elderly man stopped beside a row of blooming roses planted many years earlier. Without asking about business or wealth, he quietly spoke about life. He explained that every person eventually discovers money can build houses but never homes. Success can fill calendars but never empty hearts. A person's greatest achievement would always be the people whose lives became better because they existed. Ryland listened carefully. Those words sounded remarkably similar to the lessons his sister had once shared before her illness. When they returned to the gathering, one unexpected guest arrived. A former business associate publicly congratulated Ryland on finally appearing happy again, but casually remarked that someone like Serena probably enjoyed the luxury more than the relationship itself. The careless comment silenced the garden. Several guests looked away awkwardly. Serena lowered her eyes, unwilling to create conflict. Before she could respond, Ryland calmly stepped forward. He explained that true wealth had nothing to do with bank accounts. He shared how Serena spent every working day helping frightened children smile inside hospital rooms where money alone could never remove pain. He admitted that while countless people admired his success, she had been the only person brave enough to ask whether he was actually okay. Then he quietly thanked her. Not for pretending to be his wife, but for reminding him how to become himself again. The garden remained completely silent. Several relatives wiped tears from their eyes. Edmund smiled proudly. At that moment, everyone understood the relationship standing before them had become far more genuine than anyone had realized. As the afternoon celebration drew to a close, Edmund invited the entire family to gather beneath the large maple tree. With gentle hands, he opened a small wooden box he had carried for years. Inside rested 2 old friendship bracelets. One had belonged to Ryland as a little boy. The other had belonged to his late sister. Edmund carefully placed Ryland's bracelet back into his grandson's hand. He explained that his sister had once told him something shortly before she passed away. She hoped Ryland would someday stop surviving and begin living again. Tears quietly filled Ryland's eyes. For years he believed honoring her memory meant carrying endless sadness. Now he finally understood. Honoring her memory meant embracing the life she wished he would continue living. Several months passed. Ryland gradually changed the way he lived. Instead of spending every hour inside boardrooms, he visited the children's hospital every week. He established a charitable foundation supporting families waiting for life-saving organ transplants, ensuring no child would lose hope simply because of financial hardship. Serena continued her work as a pediatric music therapist, but now hundreds more children benefited from expanded programs funded through the new foundation. Neither of them sought attention. They focused only on helping others. One bright spring morning, Ryland returned to the same hospital garden where Serena had first challenged him to stop pretending. Flowers bloomed beneath clear blue skies, and children's laughter drifted through the warm daytime air. This time there was no audience. No reporters. No family gathering. Only two people whose lives had quietly transformed one another. Ryland looked at Serena with complete honesty. Months earlier, he had asked her to pretend. Now there was nothing left to pretend about. He no longer needed someone to help him hide his loneliness. He had found someone who helped him heal from it. Serena smiled through happy tears. Sometimes love begins not with grand promises but with quiet truth. Their story became one of healing rather than rescue. Neither person saved the other. Instead, they chose to walk beside one another through grief, hope, and every ordinary day that followed. Before we reach the ending, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment with the words, "Healing begins with honesty," if you believe opening your heart is the first step toward finding real happiness. A year later, the hospital unveiled a new music and healing center dedicated to families facing life's hardest moments. Above its entrance stood a simple inscription that perfectly captured Ryland and Serena's journey. The strongest hearts are not those that never break, but those that choose to love again. Children filled the halls with music. Parents found comfort during difficult days. Hope echoed through every room. Standing together beneath the afternoon sunshine, Ryland realized that the greatest decision of his life had never been building a billion-dollar company. It had been finding the courage to tell the truth about his pain. And Serena realized that sometimes the kindest thing we can offer another person is not a perfect answer, but the gentle reminder that they no longer have to carry life's burdens alone. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to channel name. Your support helps us continue creating emotional stories that remind the world that kindness, honesty, and second chances still have the power to change lives. Sometimes the happiest endings don't begin with someone pretending to be loved. They begin with someone finally admitting they need love, and discovering that healing becomes possible the moment the mask comes off.